It was a gloomy day, and the overcast sky mirrored the grief of those gathered at Hannah's funeral. Silence enveloped the air as attendees, lost in their memories of Hannah, quietly mourned. Some clutched handkerchiefs, while others, their eyes brimming with tears, reflected on cherished moments shared with her. The soft rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze seemed like nature itself offering its final farewell. Suddenly, the stillness was shattered by an unexpected sound. Duke, Hannah's loyal dog, began barking. Duke wasn't just any dog. He was her inseparable companion, always by her side. Now, standing before the casket, his barking grew louder and more frantic, drawing uneasy glances from the mourners. Whispers spread among them. "What's he sensing?" The atmosphere turned tense as Duke's barks persisted, filled with urgency. Children clung to their parents, recalling eerie tales of dogs with extraordinary senses. Adults exchanged anxious looks, but hesitated to voice their concerns. Duke's unwavering gaze, fixed on the casket, hinted at a truth no one dared to acknowledge. Even the skeptical began to question their disbelief. Father Michael, standing near the casket, noticed the growing unease among the crowd. With all eyes on him, he stepped forward, trying to restore calm. "Duke, it's okay. Settle down," he said in a soothing voice, approaching the dog. But Duke was relentless, his barking growing fiercer, as if warning of an unseen danger. When the priest extended his hand to comfort Duke, the dog recoiled, letting out a low growl. Beads of sweat formed on Father Michael's brow as he nervously glanced around. Something was wrong, and it was clear that Duke was determined not to let anyone ignore it. Everyone in the church watched Father Michael's every move, their unease palpable. Attempting to diffuse the tension, the priest let out a nervous laugh. "It's just a dog," he said, urging everyone to refocus on the ceremony. But his voice betrayed him. Even he seemed unsettled, as if he feared Duke might reveal a hidden truth. Some began to notice that Father Michael avoided looking directly at the casket, his eyes darting everywhere else. "Does he know something?" whispered an elderly woman to her friend, her suspicion evident. A cold, inexplicable chill swept through the room, and children clung to their parents, frightened, yet intrigued. Realizing the growing unease, Father Michael raised his voice. "Please, someone take the dog outside," he commanded, but Duke refused to budge. His barking persisted, his gaze fixed on the casket, as if he held a crucial message that no one could ignore. Amidst the murmurs, a man stood apart from the crowd, observing intently. His name was David, a stranger in the village, recently arrived and largely unknown. Yet, for reasons he couldn't fully explain, he felt a connection to Hannah, and beside Duke, he spoke softly. "What are you trying to show us, boy?" Duke paused his barking, tilting his head to study David. His intelligent eyes reflected fear and urgency, as though he knew this man might understand him. Encouraged by Duke's response, David shifted his gaze to the casket. A sudden chill coursed through him, and a strange sense of foreboding gripped his heart. The whispers in the church grew louder. "Leave the dog alone," someone muttered, attempting to intervene. But David shook his head firmly. "Number, I think Duke is trying to tell us something," he replied, his voice steady. Fixing his eyes on the casket, he added, "And maybe we should listen." David leaned closer to Duke, speaking in a low, soothing tone. "Show me, boy, what's bothering you?" Tension, as everyone waited to see what would happen next. As Duke slowly moved toward the casket, It felt as if he was leading David to uncover a secret only he could sense. The mourners began whispering among themselves, recalling tales of the mysterious sixth sense animals were said to possess. Stories of dogs and cats detecting unseen dangers or even supernatural presences filled their minds, adding to the already tense atmosphere. Duke's peculiar behavior heightened the unease. David, observing the dog's intense focus, suggested, "Perhaps Duke is sensing something we can't see." His words sent a shiver through the crowd, leaving them wondering if the dog was witnessing something otherworldly, or if there was a deeper mystery surrounding Hannah's death. Father Michael, visibly uncomfortable, felt his control over the ceremony slipping away. Taking a deep breath, he adjusted his cassock and stepped forward with deliberate movements. Reaching the center of the church, he raised his hands, calling for order. "Please, everyone, calm down," he said, attempting to project authority. But his voice wavered slightly, betraying his own apprehension. The church fell silent, though the tension remained palpable. All eyes were now on David and Duke, their movements holding the crowd in suspense. Their peers, their voices low but urgent. The air in the church grew heavier with each passing second, a blend-in of suspicion and intrigue spreading like wildfire. Father Michael's face turned pale, his hands trembling slightly as he clutched the edge of the lectern. "Hannah was a dear friend to me," he said, his voice faltering. "She trusted me, and I was there to ensure her final moments were dignified." But the defensiveness in his tone only deepened the crowd's doubts. David stepped closer, his voice unwavering. "A dear friend? Then why was she alone when she passed? And why were you the one to find her, Father? Where was her family? Her friends?" The whispers in the room grew louder, and the tension became unbearable. People exchanged looks, their earlier respect for Father Michael now clouded by uncertainty. Duke, still standing by David, let out a low growl, his eyes darting between the priest and the casket. "Enough!" Father Michael suddenly shouted, his voice echoing through the church. "This is not the time for accusations or speculation. We are here to honor Hannah's memory, not to question it." But his outburst only fueled the growing sense of unease. David refused to back down. "Honoring her memory means uncovering the truth, Father," he said calmly, his piercing gaze locked on the priest. "If there's nothing to hide, then why are you so desperate to stop us from asking questions?" The room fell into a tense silence, all eyes on Father Michael. The sweat on his forehead was now impossible to ignore, and his earlier composure had completely crumbled. It was clear to everyone present that something wasn't right. Then, breaking the silence, Duke barked once, loud and sharp, as if urging David to continue. The people in the church shifted uncomfortably. "If no one will tell us the truth, then perhaps it's time we find it ourselves." The murmurs rose again, and the crowd collectively held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Photographs, all carefully preserved but filled with an air of secrecy. David sat down at the table, Duke beside him, and began to sift through the contents of the box. The letters were addressed to Hannah, but many were unsigned, written in hurried, cryptic handwriting that spoke of danger, secrets, and warnings. One letter in particular caught David's attention. It read, "Hannah, you must be careful. He knows the truth, and if you let it slip, none of us will be safe. Trust no one, not even those closest to you." David's heart raced as he tried to piece together what these words meant. Who was he? And what truth could be so dangerous? The photographs were equally puzzling. Some showed Hannah smiling warmly with a group of people, but others revealed her standing alone, her expression somber in places that seemed oddly significant, by the edge of the forest, near the church, and once in front of what looked like a hidden cave entrance. Duke barked softly, breaking David's concentration. The dog had his nose pressed against the floor near a trap door that was partially hidden under an old rug. David's curiosity deepened as he picked by the edge of the forest, near the church, and once in front of what looked like a hidden cave entrance. Duke barked softly, breaking David's concentration. The dog had his nose pressed against the floor near a trap door that was partially hidden under an old rug. David's curiosity deepened as he pulled the rug aside and discovered a latch. With some effort, he lifted the trap door to reveal a narrow staircase leading into darkness. "This just keeps getting stranger," David murmured, grabbing a flashlight from a nearby shelf. Duke's wagging tail and alert stance showed he was ready to descend alongside him. Taking a deep breath, David began his descent, the air growing colder and damper with each step. The passage was lined with old stone walls, and the faint sound of dripping water echoed in the distance. Taking a deep breath, David began his descent, the air growing colder and damper with each step. The passage was lined with old stone walls, and the faint sound of dripping water echoed in the distance. At the bottom of the stairs, David found himself in what appeared to be a hidden room. The room was filled with old books, maps, and strange symbols carved into the walls. A table in the center held more letters, this time signed with initials. F.M. David's eyes widened as he realized the connection. "Father Michael. Looks like we're not done yet, boy," David said to Duke, his voice steady despite the tension. Duke barked in agreement, his tail wagging as they delved deeper into the mystery. Determined to uncover the truth about Hannah's death and the secrets that had been buried with her, sacred yet hidden, David knelt before the statue, feeling along its base for any sign of a compartment or loose stone. Duke sniffed intently around the area, occasionally letting out a soft whine as if urging David to keep searching. After a few tense moments, David's fingers brushed against a small, almost imperceptible latch beneath the statue. With a deep breath, he pulled it, and a hidden panel creaked open, revealing a hollow space. Inside lay the metal box from the photographs, just as Hannah had described. David carefully pulled it out, his heart pounding in his chest. The box felt heavy against a small, almost imperceptible latch beneath the statue. With a deep breath, he pulled it, and a hidden panel creaked open, revealing a hollow space. Inside lay the metal box from the photographs, just as Hannah had described. David carefully pulled it out, his heart pounding in his chest. The box felt heavier than he had expected, both physically and metaphorically. As he opened the lid, the contents confirmed everything Hannah had written. Inside were bundles of cash, forged documents, and detailed records of Father Michael's embezzlement. There were also letters exchanged with shadowy individuals, hinting at a larger conspiracy beyond the village. Among the items was a list of names, people from the congregation who had unknowingly contributed to the priest's schemes. But what struck David most was a sealed envelope marked. He found a letter written in Hannah's trembling handwriting. "If you are reading this, it means I didn't make it. Father Michael has been hiding his crimes under the guise of faith, manipulating everyone who trusted him. Please, whoever finds this, expose him. The people deserve to know the truth." David clenched the letter in his hand, feeling the weight of Hannah's plea. Just as he was about to close the box, a sudden noise made him freeze. Footsteps echoed through the church, growing louder as they approached. Father Michael appeared at the entrance to the sanctuary, his face pale and filled with fury. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice trembling with anger. David stood, holding the box tightly. "I know everything, Father. Hannah knew too, and that's why she had to die, isn't it?" The priest's expression darkened, and he took a step closer. You don't understand, he said, his voice low and threatening. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. Duke growled, stepping protectively in front of David. The tension in the room was palpable, the air heavy with unspoken threats. David took a deep breath, his resolve unshaken. It's over, Father. I have the proof, and I won't stop until everyone knows the truth. As the priest reached for him, Duke barked ferociously, causing Father Michael to hesitate. Using the moment David turned and ran, the box clutched tightly in his arms and Duke at his heels. The chase through the village began, but David knew one thing for sure. He had time before justice was served. Heard the sound of hurried footsteps behind him. Turning quickly, David saw Father Michael standing at the top of the stairs, his face a mask of fury and desperation. You should have left this alone, David, the priest said, his voice cold and menacing. You don't understand the forces at play here. David stood his ground, shielding Duke with his body while clutching the flashlight tightly. You lied to everyone, Father, he said firmly. You betrayed their trust and tried to silence Hannah because she knew the truth. But now it's over. Father Michael descended the stairs slowly, his hands trembling. You don't know what you're meddling with, he growled. This isn't just about me. There are others who won't let this go. David glanced at Hannah firmly. You betrayed their trust and tried to silence Hannah because she knew the truth. But now it's over. Father Michael descended the stairs slowly, his hands trembling. You don't know what you're meddling with, he growled. This isn't just about me. There are others who won't let this go. David glanced at Hannah, her eyes filled with fear and desperation. He knew he had to act quickly. You think you can scare me into silence? That ends now, he said, his voice unwavering. Duke growled, his body tense and ready to defend. David took a step toward Hannah, but Father Michael lunged forward, blocking his path. The flashlight clattered to the ground, the room plunging into an eerie, flickering light. In the chaos, Duke sprang into action, barking fiercely and biting at the priest's time to reach Hannah and start unchaining her. Hurry, Hannah whispered, her voice trembling. He's more dangerous than you think. The last chain fell away, and Hannah stood shakily, leaning on David for support. Father Michael, regaining his balance, glared at them both, his face twisted in rage. You won't leave here alive, he spat, reaching for something beneath his robe. A glint of metal revealed a concealed weapon. Before he could act, Duke leaped at him again, knocking the weapon from his hand and sending it skittering across the stone floor. The distraction gave David and Hannah the opportunity they needed to run toward the staircase. Come on, Duke, David called, and the loyal dog sprinted after them. As they reached the top of the stairs, they slammed the door shut, barricading it with a nearby. The muffled sound of Father Michael's shouts echoed from below, but David and Hannah didn't stop. They fled into the night, Duke by their side, carrying the evidence that would expose the priest's dark deeds to the world. The village would never be the same, but at least the truth would finally come to light. Villagers processed what had just unfolded. Father Michael broke into a desperate tirade. You fools! He shouted, his voice echoing with fury and despair. You think you've uncovered the truth, but you have no idea what you've done. This is bigger than me, bigger than all of you. His words sent a ripple of unease through the crowd. What could he mean? Was there an even deeper secret lurking in the shadows? Hannah, now free and supported by David, spoke with a trembling voice. He's lying to protect himself. Her secret lurking in the shadows? Hannah, now free and supported by David, spoke with a trembling voice. He's lying to protect himself. I saw everything. The theft, the lies, The manipulation. He used the church as a cover for his greed and crimes. Don't let him twist this further. The villagers, though shaken, rallied together. Some of the stronger men restrained Father Michael as others began searching the church for more evidence. David handed over the diary and the metal box to the town's elders, ensuring that the truth would be preserved and shared with higher authorities. As the night wore on, Hannah recounted her story to the gathered villagers, revealing how she had discovered the priest's corruption and his threats to silence her. Her bravery, along with David's determination and Duke's loyalty, had brought elders, ensuring that the truth would be preserved and shared with higher authorities. As the night wore on, Hannah recounted her story to the gathered villagers, revealing how she had discovered the priest's corruption and his threats to silence her. Her bravery, along with David's determination and Duke's loyalty, had brought the darkness into the light. By dawn, the authorities arrived to take Father Michael into custody. The once revered priest was led away in handcuffs, his head bowed in defeat. The villagers, though deeply saddened by the betrayal, felt a renewed sense of unity and hope. David, with Duke by his side, looked at Hannah and the gathered crowd. "This isn't just about uncovering the truth," he said. "It's about standing together and protecting each other, no matter the cost." As the sun rose over the small village, casting warm light on the church and its people, there was a sense of renewal. The scars of betrayal would take time to heal, but the community had learned the strength of truth and the power of unity. And as for Duke, the loyal dog who had been at the heart of it all, he was hailed as a hero, his name spoken with admiration and gratitude by everyone in the village. Admiration and gratitude by everyone in the village.